Welcome to 1+1 Looking at Leadership. Our guest this week is Justin Langer, the coach of the Australian cricket team. Now, Langer took over the Australian team just after the sandpaper crisis shook cricket to its core. But now he and the captain, Tim Paine, have taken giant strides in terms of building trust, respect and integrity to the Australian cricket team.
That's a good shot. And that's gone all the way. That'll be it.
Justin Langer, welcome to 1+1.
Pleasure, thank you.
Now, you took over coaching the Australian cricket team in 2018 after the sandpaper crisis. Now, it wasn't just the Australian team that was demoralised, the whole country was. You'd wanted to be coached for a while, I presume, but did you think just for a moment, boy, my timing is lousy?
I thought it's either lousy or it's perfect, because often it's you take over roles in times of crisis, because that's times of change management. I knew that I had to shake things up a bit, and so it was almost too good a project. Even though I had almost had my dream job in Western Australia. I was head coach of West Australia. I was head coach of the Scorchers. I was on the board of the West Coast Eagles. I was at home, so I was home with my family. I was born and bred in West Australia. But it was almost too good a project to knock back.
That's a very positive attitude. I mean, there are no messiahs in politics or in sport. You knew you had tough times ahead.
Oh, I did, and I promise you, those first 6 months, I'm often asked, do you enjoy the job? I didn't enjoy the first 6 months.
You lost games?
Well, that's part of it. I mean, we lost games, but we'd lost so much respect from the public that it just felt like we were under fire the whole time. And then Australian cricket was under fire. I remember, we're here at the MCG now. I remember I was 11 years old. Dennis Lillee was running into bowl, Lillee, and I'm a kid in Duncraig in Western Australia watching the TV, and Dennis Lillee bowled Viv Richards at this ground. I'm 11 years old, and that was the moment I wanted to be an Australian Test cricketer. Lillee bowls Viv Richards. Kim Hughes had scored 100 earlier in the day. I want to play cricket for Australia. And I've loved it. My uncle played World Series cricket. I've loved cricket and Australian cricket since I was a little kid. We were getting hammered, and rightly so, but we've got such a proud history, and Australian cricket was getting hammered, and there we all felt it. I was a past player. We all felt it. I'll never forget the next morning. I was at the Fremantle markets after Sandpaper-gate. I was at the Fremantle markets. Then I go with my second daughter, Ali, my little hippie daughter, and I've done it for the last 5 years. It's our date. And we usually go there every Sunday morning, have our coffee, eat our goslamay, just take our time, talk rubbish. No one bugs us. On the next morning, I had 30 people. What's happened? What has happened? And I realised. And then the next day I went to the West Coast Eagles' new facility that they were building, and there would have been about 300 Aussie blokes there in their steel cap boots, their hard hats, and it was almost like they were shattered. So within 2 days I realised the enormity of this. So therefore, and
then you must have known then that you had a task ahead of you, not only to start winning games again, but to rebuild trust and rebuild some sort of integrity into the system.
We said from day one, there's two things. After a little bit, Tim Paine and myself got together with James Sutherland and Pat Howard at the time. What's our remit here? We've got to make Australians proud of us again. We've got to earn back respect. We've got to earn back trust. We've got to make Australians proud of us again. And that was number one. And then everyone kept talking about culture. And it's almost a buzzword, but culture's crucial. And I was asked in my very first press conference here in Melbourne, well, how do you change culture? And I said, well, culture's just behaviour. On and off the cricket field, culture is behaviour. So it's going to take 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 behaviours before we start earning back the respect. And if we do that, then we're getting the job done.
Did you have to say some tough things to the cricketers?
Yeah, I said some tough things, yeah. I made it really clear what the vision was. The most important, you've got to know what you stand for. You've got to know what your values are. You've got to walk the talk. There's an old saying that if you talk excellence and walk mediocrity, you're nothing but a common liar. And anyone can talk excellence. Talking's easy. Anyone can come up with ideas. Anyone can talk excellence. Executing it, rolling your sleeves up and doing it, that's the tough part of leadership.
Now, things eventually turned around. You've retained the Ashes. You beat Pakistan, was it 2-0, and New Zealand 3-0? None of them are close. But of course you had Smith and you had Warner back in the team. Labuschagne was an absolute revelation. But was it more than that? Was it more than just the inclusion of those players?
Of course. There's so much. I mean, again, the results, what I've come to recognise very clearly is not just about winning. We've seen that, we saw that. So it's great we're getting the results, and we should get the results.
And that builds
frankly.
confidence.
Yeah, but we should. We've got so much talent in Australia. We should get results. The guys are full-time professionals, they're elite professionals, they're elite fit now, every one of them. There's plenty of talent, but it's also the way that we're going about our business. The thing I'm most proud of our guys is, yeah, it's great to win, but I go back to England, and the abuse our boys got in England was unbelievable. You guys, people heard the booing,
Yep.
the abuse we got. I mean, we used to go from the change room to the team bus, and there'd be hordes of English supporters waiting for the boys, and the abuse was unbelievable. And the way they smiled their way through it, they didn't fight back, they just smiled their way through it. It was almost like they knew they had to pay their penance. I was so proud of their behaviours and the way they are with the public now. We've got outstanding young men in the Australian cricket team who are talented, which is great, and they're good cricketers, but they're outstanding young blokes. We said we're going to develop great cricketers, but great people and great Australians, and honestly, we're on this path. We've got great young men.
I want to take you back before we go on about contemporary days. Take you back to when you were a kid, really, and you weren't playing cricket at a serious level, and you learned a very early life lesson from your grandfather.
Yeah.
When he turned up at your house one morning, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
What happened?
Seeing the sunrise. I was petrified of heights when I was a kid. And like a lot of people, I talk about when you're scared of heights, because everyone's scared of something, right? Spiders or snakes or scared of failing or scared of success. Everyone's scared of something. I was scared of heights. And even the fact I'm sitting up here now, when I was a kid, there's no way, because I think I'm going to fall over the edge and die, right? That's what happens. My grandfather, tough, Harold Langer, tough. He used to always say, "You're too skinny, son. You need to get strong in your shoulders." He used to smoke his Winfield Red, suck his strong mint. And he took me in his car and we used to talk about everything. My pop, I used to love my pop. And he took me to this construction site in East Perth. It's about a 20-minute drive. And he said, "I've been worrying about your son. No grandson of mine's going to be scared of heights." I'm going, righto. What does that mean? He goes, "Come on." And he said, and we're at the bottom of this, there's a big sign, "Danger, keep out, construction in progress." And I'm thinking, "Pop, what are you doing here? It's 5 o'clock and it's still dark." And he's got my shoes on and my trucky dacks and my t-shirt. He goes, "Come on, let's go. I'm going to cue you fear of heights right now." I said, "Can't we just stop man to man, just here?" He goes, "That's not how it works, son." He said, "It's like tasting honey. I can tell you what it tastes like. Unless you taste it, you never really know." So all of a sudden, he takes me up these steps, right? He takes me up and there's construction, so I walk coming up these steps, get 5 levels up, and I start getting sweaty palms, and my heart starts pumping, start getting dry mouth, get 10 levels up, and my head, I'm spinning around. Because all I can think about falling over the edge. This is what happens when you're scared. We get to 15, 20 levels. I'm like a snake. I'm on all fours, and I'm like getting cut by the. I've got dust all over me. I've got nails and shit, and I'm sort of getting up there, and he gets me up there, and all I can feel is this fresh air and this cold air. We get to the top of this thing, and my grandfather's dragged me up. Like, "Don't be a wimp, son. Get up." And I'm holding on. He pushes me along, and I'm holding on to the edge of this steel, like scaffolding, whatever. And I've got my eyes closed. I feel like I'm going to vomit. I feel like I'm going to die. And my grandfather, eventually, I could smell the Winfield, the tobacco and the mint in my ear. He goes, "Open your eyes, son." I'm going, "Pop, I'm not opening my eyes, mate. I'm going to fall over. I'm too scared." He goes, "Open your eyes. You've got to trust me." So I'm going to trust my pop, right? So eventually, I open my eyes and I look up, and the sun is rising over the foothills in Perth. And I'm 15 years, I've never seen a sunrise before. I'm like my daughters, I'm asleep, right? So the sun's rising, and I remember looking at it going, oh my God, besides the birth of my daughter, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life, my first sunrise. And my pop just says to me, son, I just cured your fear of heights. And I'm going, what are you talking about? He goes, and more importantly, I'm going to teach you, I've just taught you the most valuable lesson you'll ever learn in your life. I'm going, what do you think? He goes, he said, son, in this life, always look to where you want to go, not to where you don't want to go. Always look to where you want to go, not to where you don't want to. And what we do as human beings, we're always worried about failing, we're always worried about getting bitten by the stuff, we're always about all the... So he said, look to where you want to go. For me, it was always the baggy green cap. As a coach now, where do we want to go? We want to make Australians proud of us.
So he was saying, look up, not look down, and just take a more positive attitude to life, I suppose.
Pretty much, but look up to where you want to go in your life.
Yeah.
If you start worrying about failing and what all the critics are saying, you're dead.
Yeah.
Keep focusing on where you want to go in your life. And that's, for me, it was always, there's plenty of times where people say to me, oh, you're not good enough to play for Australia. You're not good enough. And I used to hear it all the time. But I'm like, yeah, okay, no worries. But I don't care, because I'm going to try to wear the baggy green as many times as I can. That was my focus. I want to wear the baggy green cap. So I kept, in all the dark times and all the doubts, no, but mate, remember what you're getting out of bed for. Remember what you're hitting 1,000 balls for. Remember what you're running the extra laps for, because you want to wear the baggy green cap. Yeah. Look to where you want to go. Don't be sidetracked by being too scared to have a crack at it, because it might not happen.
I recall when you did make it in 1991, and I watched you play, and there was nobody more enthusiastic in the field, and you seemed to have this constant smile on your face. I mean, more than any other player out there. You seem to be loving it.
Well, I even go, of course, I mean, but the funny thing about it, you get your baggy green cap, and then you go, what? Now the reality sets in. You think about it since you're a kid, they've got to face West Indian fast bowlers. Yep. So it's not that much fun. But then we fast bowled to 2001, and I got dropped in 2001, and I was out. I was 31 years. I'd never play for Australia again. And then in the last test at the Ashes, Michael Slater got dropped. And I opened the batting for the first time with Matty Hayden, and I was batting worse than my watch. I couldn't have batted worse, but they dropped slats, so they bring me in to bat. And my wife had flown over, because I was going to retire the week before, because I was so down in the dumps. She flew over for a week with my little girl, Sophie, my baby, who was 2 months old. And out of nowhere, Steve Waugh rings me as my wife's about to fly back that day, and he goes, oh, mate, just so you know, you're going to open the batting tomorrow. Slats has been dropped, you're opening. I went, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, I think you'll be a good opener. So as my wife's flying out back to Heathrow, going to Heathrow, I said, darling, whatever happens, you reckon I've had fun before? I've got one more chance to play for Australia again. They'll never pick me again, because I'm not that good. But I'm going to be like an Energizer bunny. I'm going to run around, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to have the best time of my life, and talk about valuable lessons. And I ended up getting 100. And I opened, everyone remembers me as opening the batting with Matty Hayden. Yeah. But that was only at the end of my career, and I had so much fun after that. So I've always had that energy for playing for Australia, but even when I was 31, it was so much fun.
But you opened with Matty Hayden about 100 times, didn't you?
Yeah, for the next 5 years. And I thought, I was literally, the week before I opened for the first time with Haydos, I had told all my family, I'm getting on a plane and leaving. I'm going home. And that was from an Ashes tour, because I couldn't make a run. I thought I'd failed. I'd never play for Australia again. I'd been dropped at the start of the series where I thought I was going to play. But another great lesson. If you just hang in there, you never know what's around the corner.
And the mindset, have a bit of fun.
It makes so much difference. You've got to take it seriously. It's our business, but you do it best. I always say to all the kids, you ever see Usain Bolt running like this? No, he's just relaxed. Yeah. You see Tiger Woods, is he tight? No, he's just relaxed. You see Sachin or Brian Lara, it's like they let their body flow, and then they're still concentrated mind, but they just flow. There's a word in martial arts called Kaime, K-I-M-E. Strong mind, loose body. And that's about having fun to me. But it takes courage and it takes wisdom, and you've got to learn how to do that.
You had all that time with Matty Hayden, and you developed a great friendship.
Yeah.
He wrote in a book. He actually wrote a book. In fact, he might have written a couple, I think.
A couple of cookbooks, Matty Hayden.
Cookbooks.
Yeah, he loves it.
That'd be based on his fishing, I suppose. He segued from fishing to cooking. But he did write this about you. He said that he couldn't talk to you about cricket. You were too intense. He would have gone bonkers. Were you really that intense when you were playing?
It's so funny because there was the three of us. There was Matty Hayden, Ricky Ponting and myself. We took such great pride and we are like brothers. But Punter and I could talk cricket all day long. Like, we're cricket tragic, so that's probably what talk about intense. We love cricket, whereas Haydos is the biggest hippie. He'd rather talk about fishing, surfing, walking in the mountains.
Was it the fact that you were fond of sayings that maybe put him off at times? I mean, you use expressions, you use proverbs to try and make a point, right? To make a case.
Yeah, of course. Well, I read a lot. I love reading, and I love reading about leadership, and I love reading about people, and therefore, like, I got this room, when I built my new house, my wife nearly killed me, but at the back of the house we built a gym, so 5 by 5 metres, and the day we built the house, I got this big permanent marker. I walked in there and I wrote this big saying in permanent marker on the pain of discipline is nothing like the pain of disappointment. And my wife, she's going to kill me. She said, what are you doing? It's our beautiful new house. Now if you go there, 20 years later, the room's now 15 by 5 metres and it is literally covered in sayings and scriptures and poems and I just love the room.
But what does this sort of lead you towards positive thinking? Is this about the power of positive thinking or something?
Well, in a sense, but I think you just learn so many lessons from reading. You know, there's a lot of wisdom out there, and rather than me just reading about it and then forgetting about it, I draw on it. You're able to go in and you can, and like I said, I love reading. I love reading about leadership. I love knowing about leaders. I said to some kids, a young footy team a few days ago, when you wake up every morning, think of who you think of a great leader, whoever it is, whether it's your dad or your grandfather or your uncle or someone you see on the tally, and wake up, think about being a leader. I said, Lion, and it was actually for the Subiaco Footy Club, and they're the Lions. I said, mate, Lions wake up and they eat sheep. Lions eat sheep for dinner, so make sure you wake up like you're a lion. And you know, when you think about some of the great leaders in the world, they impart great wisdom. So I just love to read it and then write it up, and also don't forget it.
Now, Tim Paine was, you would no longer regard him as a stand-in captain, would you? I mean, he's really established his credentials.
Outstanding, Tim Paine. I mean, honestly, and I've spoken to Paine about it, when I took over the coaching role, and I knew Paine, I've known Paine since a youngster, and he's a bit of a larrikin, you know, he's a ripping young bloke. But when I heard he's the Australian captain, I go, Paine, the captain? Okay. Wow, what a combination. I mean, we've built a brilliant partnership. He's an outstanding young bloke, and what he's done, the way he's publicly and privately, he's helped lead the team has been brilliant. And I guess that's another thing about leadership, is you can't do it by yourself, and I've been lucky in my life to form great partnerships, whether it's with my wife of 25 years, whether it's with Matthew Hayden, with Ricky Ponting. Leadership you can't do. I've had an old saying, back to the sayings, in my office at West Australia. I never went to Harvard, but I employ a lot of people who did.
Right.
So you get good people around you, that includes people like Tim Paine.
Now, when you talk about leadership from a coach's point of view, it gets a little complicated because of the different roles of the captain and the coach. I gather that the captain is basically there to deal with strategy, and you're there to do the preparation. Is that it, or is that too simple?
No, it's. I always laugh at this concept about who's the boss, the captain or the coach, and I've heard it for years. You know, in cricket, the captain's the boss, but it's now, like all sports, it's a massive industry. So, and I always say, no one's the boss. We just work together. That's how I like to do it. There's no bosses. I like to work together, and I get caught up in all this rubbish about who's the boss. Mate, we're all the boss. If we all work together, you get good results. There
are stresses and strains, though, on cricketers, perhaps more so now than ever, and the mental health issue is now very much a real issue. There are well-known cases right now. Is it, though, that we're just becoming more aware of this, or do you think it has always been a problem? Well, you know, if you had told Alan Border when I first come in, I'm feeling a bit sad, AB.
or David Boone. I said, hey, have a smoke and have a beer and we'll talk. Well, you'll be fine, son. Get out there. They didn't even talk to us. We were too scared.
Does that view still exist, though, in the same quarters?
No, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of people don't get it. I mean, what? No, you're having a bad day. You got depression. A lot of people don't get it, but I get it. I mean, I've seen it. I've got family members who have been affected by mental health issues. I've got friends who have been affected by mental health. It's really debilitating, isn't it? The only difference with mental health is if you break your arm or you get a stress fracture in your back or you pull your hamstring, everyone can see it because it comes up on an MRI machine or an X-ray machine. The doctor can see it, whereas mental health, it's debilitating and you've got to respect it. But you've also, we all also have to respect it's tough being a human being and you have bad days, and that doesn't mean you've got depression either.
Yeah, what is the difference there with cricketers, for example? Is it if they're not making runs or taking wickets and you get stressed for all sorts of reasons, is it stress, is it depression, or is there not much of a difference between the two?
I think there's a couple of things in cricket now, and I'm finding it again as a coach. I must spend I'll give you an example. We just had 5 months in England, and we're in 5 months in England, we're playing cricket, we're in hotels every week in the Test series, every second day in the one-day series. We're travelling, the boys are getting abused, there's the media stuff that you've got to deal with. In England it is brutal, and it's getting more brutal in Australia. You're dealing with all that stuff. And I saw my kids for 2 weeks in 5 months. So there's stresses, it's bloody hard. You know, everybody said, oh, we get paid well to do it. Yeah, you do, but that's, whether you're the toughest bloke in the world, that takes its toll. And a lot of it, we're talking about some kids, we're talking about kids who are 19 or 20 or 25 years old. But in Stephen and Dave Warner's case, they also went through a 12-month ban, and you know they got so tired, mate. They got tired and they made a dumb mistake. When we get tired, we all make mistakes and we do dumb stuff. We want it to be over quick, right? That's life. So there's lots of stresses on, well, everyone in our society now, but in our case, or the guy's case, regardless how much money they get paid, yeah, there's stresses on them.
What do you say to these people to try and get them back on their feet?
Well, you got to, again, as the tough guy, one thing I've learned, you got to care about people. One of the most important things about leadership, you got to care about people. Again, if you're a dad, you got to care about your kids and your wife and your family. You got to care about people. Whether it's my players, and hopefully when they do my eulogy, the players I've worked with say, oh, he cared about us. You got to care about them. You got to give it. You got to be compassionate. You got to care about it. You got to give them, and believe it or not, everyone thinks I'm the tough guy, but the most important thing is giving them a bit of love, giving them a bit of encouragement. That's so important. The great mentors that I've had, they've been really tough on me and they've told me the truth, but they're also my best friends now, and they did it because they cared about me and they loved me. So, and we're talking about some pretty tough blokes who have given it to me.
And
so
work-life balance would be important in this too, wouldn't it?
I've learned a great, I just had 2 weeks off when the boys went to India. I've learned a great thing about work-life balance. I'm brilliant at it. And I don't have to work.
What?
I don't have to work. I'm great at work-life balance.
Right.
It's honestly, it's hard. I mean, you've got to, again, that word discipline, you've got to be really, have courage, you have discipline to make sure your routines are right, make sure you make healthy choices, because that's the other thing. If you don't, the cycle's pretty rough, I reckon, so you've got to be aware of that.
Just got a couple of more questions for you. Have you got time to take a stroll on the ground and let me put those to you?
Any chance to go on the MCG, I'd love to.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, bloody oath.
Good. It probably goes without saying that a leader has to have respect, but I want to take you to your final game. You were in England, 2005, 2006. And you've written about this, but how the pressure started to build in the change rooms, even before you went out onto the ground.
Yeah, we needed 47. It was actually the SCG against England, and we had 47 runs to win. And I walked into the change room, and I was just about to put my pads on for the last time, and Gilly come up to me, and I sort of blow up the story. And Gilly, he puts it, he starts crying. He goes, I'm going, Kev, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go and bat. He's going, oh, yeah, we're going to really miss you, mate. And then I walked in through the SCG change room, and all the boys all stood up. Good luck. It was like walking down the gangplank, right? And then I saw my old man in the crowd. He'd run over, and I shook my dad's hand. He was a bit teary. And then I get on the ground, and I walk up to Haydos, and I'm just about to kept giving him this speech about how much I love him, how much I've, and he's a bit emotional, so I've got my head down.
What was this doing for you?
Well, yeah, I'm thinking I've still got to go and bat to try and win 5-0 against the Poms, and then I look up, and England have formed a guard of honour. I'm going, oh my God, like this is unbelievable. And I walked through, and they weren't crying. They were like about to lose 5-0, so they're kidney punching me and kicking me. But it was a very nice gesture. And then, as it turns out, we end up hitting the winning runs, and Haydos, we were in the middle, so we finished it. It's like you don't get too many fairy tale endings these days.
Yeah.
So I'm with Haydos, and we're having a hug, and then Punter had run over, and there was 3 of us, and we were all like brothers. And I realised at that moment, you know, that in life, if or certainly through cricket, I got great friends, great mates, great memories, and I'd earn respect. And I'd earn respect from the public, I'd earn respect from the opposition, I'd earn respect from my teammates, I'd earn respect from my family. And ultimately, that's what it's about. I mean, respect is more than all the gold in the world, in my opinion. So I'd earned respect, and that's a big thing.
My last question is on the baggy green. What is it with the baggy green? Sure, representing Australia is one thing, but what is it about this cap?
Yeah, I remember Mike Atherton once writing, I think England must have beat us in the Test match. I was the assistant coach of the Australian team at the time, and he said, this is all a glark, this baggy green, what a load of rubbish. And my right of reply said, it's just like telling a kid there's no Father Christmas. Or it's like telling there's Christians, there's no God. For me, the baggy green cap, it's like, yeah, it's a bit of cloth. And it's a green bit of cloth, and it looks a bit funny on your head, but it's something you aspire to, you know. It's something you aspire to, and it tells. And I also remember, you know, to get tattered and torn, and people say, "Oh, you can't wear that on the field because it doesn't look right." But it tells so many stories. I mean, for me, as the baggy is about the dream of having it, and then it tells stories about all the good times and the tough times and all the stories and all the people I met, and that's why it's a symbol to me. It's more than just a bit of cloth. It's just the symbol of representing your country. You know, like I say, earning respect, having tough times, having good times, having parties. I mean, there's that much beer and wine tipped over it when you're singing the Australian team song. I mean, there's just so many magic memories about the baggy green cap.
Some of the players don't wash it, they don't repair it.
No. It's like, I talk about, it's like in martial arts. It's the reason it becomes a black belt, because it starts as a white belt, and over time, you're not allowed to wash your belt, and over time the black belt's a symbol of all the stories that comes through, and that's how it develops to the black belt. You never wash your baggy green cap, and it stinks and it's tattered and torn, but again, it tells so many stories, and everyone's got their own story. My story is different than Nathan Lyon's story, that's different than a guy who's played his first test. A lot of guys have played one test match for Australia, you never take that away from them, but they've got a baggy green cap. And I said the first time I got it, it's no longer a baggy green cap or the baggy green, this is my baggy green cap. You imagine that? I've got one. I own a baggy green cap. I mean, the fact that Shane Warne's got auctioned for $1 million,
Yep.
it goes to say there's something in the baggy green cap.
Well, Justin Langer, you had great respect as a player. You made an enormous difference as a coach, and I just suspect you might have some even better days ahead of you. I think the whole country hopes
Hopefully.
that's the case.
Hopefully.
Thanks for joining 1+1.
Peter, thanks, Barrie. Thanks very much. Thank you.